let's introduce our speaker for today, Mr. Nagendra. Well, he's passionate about Gen AI, agile design thinking, DevOps. Nagendra, I must say that your passion is truly industry relevant right now. He's had his education from Brandeis University and University of Penn Wharton. He's had a couple of industry relevant certifications as well. He's currently, I think, been working in Honeywell and IBM. Pretty amazing profile, Nagendra. And before we get into the sessions, before I hand it over to you, Nagendra, a few instructions for our audience here. I would request you all during the session, please post all the questions in the chat box, and our speaker, our expert, is going to be answering them after or towards the end of the session. We would also be distributing the webinar completion certificate and some amazing offers. So I would really request you all to stick till the end. Well, over to you, Nagendra.
Hey, thank you very much, 𝗧𝗵𝗿. If I may, I will share my screen.
Yep.
All right. All right, let me bring that up. Give me one quick second, folks. Just scrolling back to the slide where 𝗧𝗵𝗿 left off. So there we go, found it. Let me share my screen now. Okay, 𝗧𝗵𝗿, if you can help me confirm that my slides are visible and I'm audible clearly.
Yes, very much.
Okay, fantastic. Hey everyone, a very warm welcome to you. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Looks like we have folks joining us from different time zones. I'm joining all of you from the southern Indian city of Bengaluru today. My name is Nagendra Nyamgondalu. I go by Nagen. And thank you, 𝗧𝗵𝗿, for getting me started on my introduction. Just to add a couple more things about my background before we get further into today's session. I've been in the technology industry for about 29 years now, so I do feel a bit long in the tooth. I spent a big part of my career at IBM, both in the US and in India. And more recently, I was the director of engineering at Honeywell, where I led the home automation systems division team. Past few years have been more of a free spirit, a coach, facilitator, mentor, trainer, consultant, whatever hat I'm required to wear. And it's been very interesting because I've got a chance to work with so many different audiences from across the globe, so many different types of organizations from across different industries. And I hope to share some of those experiences with you as we get started on this a quick overview into a very exciting topic, right? So that's a bit about me. Ideally, I would love to pause and get to know about you folks as well. But given the numbers we have today, I'll take a look at your introductions offline. So let's get started. The topic today is the incredible connection between the value generative AI can add for project management, right? So the callouts are the five things that we can think of. So before we get into any of that, let me just quickly kind of get us all on the same page. Many of you might be deep experts in project management with a lot of relevant experience. Others might be new to it. So when we say project management, obviously we are talking about the ability to achieve a business goal, some kind of a deliverable, whether that's a product you're releasing to the market, an internal project you're doing for your colleagues, whether it's some kind of a new service being designed and released, whether it's some kind of a new tool that you're developing, whatever it is that you're doing, a project is something that you're looking to do in a timeline for a specific end goal, a business deliverable, right? And project management, therefore, is the ability to harmonize all the resources available. And these resources are human resources, of course, the most valuable. But there's time, there's money, there's tools and resources and other kinds of equipment that all needs to come together. How to harmonize them, how to plan ahead and get things done such that we deliver the right value at the right time to the right people, right? I'm sure all of you will agree that that's what project management really comes down to. So with that, let's also take a look at the other side of today's coin, which is what is generative AI? Many of you might already be dabbling in generative AI, be it ChatGPT among the more popular tools, or many others like Microsoft Copilot, Meta AI, Google Gemini, and so on. But what is this generative AI, right? Just to, again, get everyone on the same page. It is basically a particular specialization within the vast field of artificial intelligence Because remember, AI itself has been around for at least a couple of decades now, if not longer, with a lot of research being done in different aspects of AI. And generative AI, probably something that's been talked about and being experimented with for the last, say, 3+ years, is something that is one particular specialization of AI that uses some of the other aspects of AI, like machine learning, natural language processing, and so on, to create algorithms capable of producing content for us. What content are we talking about here? Starting with text content, slide content, but also going beyond that in terms of using information we share with this AI to answer questions, to come out with analytics, to come out with predictions, right? Any or all of these are possible. So it's not just about, hey, ChatGPT, write me a small article, although that kind of thing comes easy, but it's also far more sophisticated and complex, and it's constantly evolving as well, right? So that being the case, let's explore this for maybe another minute or two, and then I'll get to the core of today's topic around project management. I'll try to squeeze in a couple of live demos as well for those of you who are interested. Again, for those of you who are already using ChatGPT, this may be just something that you do on a daily basis. But for those of you who have still not dabbled with it, have still not got your kind of your hands dirty with any Gen AI tool, hopefully the demo that I plan to do will be interesting, right? So we talked about what is generative AI. So let's talk a bit about one of the more popular tools that a lot of people tend to start their generative AI experience with, which is ChatGPT. This is not an endorsement in any way that ChatGPT is the best tool or it's something that I recommend or any of that, right? It's not. You can do your own pros and cons analysis of which generative AI tool works best for you, whether it is ChatGPT or many of the others out there. Like you can see on my screen right here, there's Copilot, there's Gemini, and so on. So this is not meant to be an endorsement that, hey, folks, consider using ChatGPT. No, but this is one of the more common ones that's talked about, also comes from an open source background. So I thought I'll just use this as context to kind of further the discussion around generative AI, okay? So ChatGPT is something called a language model that was developed by an organization called OpenAI, which has been in the news for a lot of things in the last couple of years. And it is primarily designed to facilitate conversational interactions, just like we talk to another human being, right? But this time between humans and machines. So, which is why I like to think of generative AI as a partner in the room. If asked, hey, can you describe generative AI or the value that it brings, or explain generative AI in one phrase, not even a complete sentence, the phrase I would call out is a partner in the room, right? It can act as a partner in the room, regardless of what task you're looking to achieve, whether you're in manufacturing, retail, banking, healthcare, or technology, software, services, whatever you are in, whichever domain, and whatever be your role or function, what you're looking to do, your everyday work, this generative AI tool can act as a partner in the room, right? So it is built on, so why is it called Chat GPT? The chat part we understand. What is this GPT? It's something called generative pre-trained transformer architecture. It is the way the secret sauce works under the covers, so to speak. I don't think we need to get into that. That's not our focus today. But ultimately, this enables to have a coherent conversation and contextually relevant responses based on what we ask of these tools, right? So that's kind of a quick primer on ChatGPT. Closely associated with that, you may also have heard of the term LLMs, or large language models, right? So that is but one type of AI algorithm that is often used with generative AI tools. So it's often talked about in the same sentence. And this algorithm uses deep learning techniques and massively large data sets. We are talking about billions of parameters. So how ChatGPT was trained to begin with was it was given billions of parameters to consider and start thinking about how sentences are commonly framed, what kind of responses are appropriate, what kind of data is appropriate to share when faced with a question like this. And there is so much more behind it. So the large language models are basically large numbers of parameters and are primarily provided as training data to these GPT kind of models, training models, right? So what is training data? Most of these AI systems, the more data you give it, the more intelligent it becomes. So you're training it to understand your domain, your context, and your ecosystem, so that when you ask questions or ask it to perform some tasks for you, it does so in a meaningful way, right? What are some of these possibilities? I'll show you as we get through the demo today. Okay. All right. Let me continue then. So let's get a little closer to our topic at hand, which is generative AI and project management. So what are some of the key AI technologies that have been reshaping how project workflows are done today, right? And we'll talk about agile project management briefly as well. But before we get there, here are some of the key innovations that have happened in time under the broader umbrella of AI. I remember in 2011, when I was a part of IBM, IBM had one of its early research AI systems called Watson, which is even very popular today, used in various domains. It's called IBM Watson. But back in 2011, which is nearly 13 years back, the way they introduced this to the world, and this is very interesting. If any of you are interested, please go to YouTube and search for IBM Watson and Jeopardy. Now, what is this Jeopardy? Many of you may be familiar, but in case you're not, Jeopardy is and was a TV show, kind of like a game show in the format of a quiz, where the host, the late Mr. Alex Trebek, who's no longer with us, unfortunately, so I guess somebody else has taken that over now. But the way the host would conduct this quiz is that there would be categories on the board, and the participants need to pick which category they want to answer questions in. And the questions would be formed in the form of an answer, and the answer had to be in the form of a question, right? So, for example, let's say that one of the categories, just giving you a crude example, let's say one of the categories was disruptive technologies, and I'm a participant and I chose, hey, I want to answer a question in the category of disruptive technologies. And Alex Trebek would ask the system to pick and show the questions in there, and the question was something like this: a little black device released in 2006, 2007, which took the world by storm, right? So the question is in the term of an answer, and the way I would have to answer is, what is an iPhone, right? So this, of course, the categories were very varied and quite sophisticated. Nothing as simple as this. It was like philosophy, architecture, art, science, technology, mathematics, literature, what have you, right? In such a game show that was very popular over many years in primetime television in the US, IBM Watson, the AI system, participated as a participant. And this was in 2011. And nobody sat there with a keyboard feeding questions to Watson. Watson had to listen to what the game show host was saying, just like any of the other human participants. So the human participants in that particular episode, special episode, was the winners from the two previous seasons, champions from the two previous seasons, very smart guys who really knew what they were talking about, right? I had followed Jeopardy for a long time, so I knew these guys as well. And in the beginning, Watson fumbled a little, got some things wrong. But by the time we were at the halfway mark of the episode, Watson was like miles ahead of its human competitors. So think about what it did back in 2011. Natural language processing. It understood what the host was asking and understood that it had to frame the answer in the form of a question, and the question to it would be in the form of an answer, right? And various categories, and it had to strategize because every category had something called the daily double, where if you pick that, it will double the number of points of money you're making, and so on. So it was a lot of strategy, not just answering questions. And Watson swept the floor, right? It beat out the two human competitors handily back in 2011. So this is a very exciting space that has been going on for a long time and continues to evolve. It's a big part of what generative AI uses as well, natural language processing. Then there is machine learning, often talked about in the same breath as AI, where there are various algorithms that are able to take what data you're feeding it and run certain intelligence on it by learning from its mistakes as well. For example, there are something called classification algorithms where, hey, I want you to take a look at this data and tell me, among these applications for a loan, which applications should I consider shortlist and which applications should I reject. So what is it doing? It's classifying. It's looking at the data and deciding, okay, these you can shortlist based on certain parameters and what you have trained me to do, and these you can reject, right? So machine learning is something along those lines. There's a lot more to it. I'm giving you just a 30-second spin about it. Automation. automation and AI can be very, very powerful. I've seen this in action, where you can combine the end-to-end capabilities of automation, where something triggers the process and the whole thing can be done without human interference, as long as it is a series of repetitive steps. And the AI aspect of it can bring in that intelligence to that as well, right? So automation is something, again, that's been around for many decades, but has evolved into something very, very powerful and a huge productivity booster. And with that comes workflow integration. Every business process we have, regardless of what domain we are in, will have workflows, and you can integrate all these amazing tools into those workflows, right? So what's the current state of generative AI vis-a-vis project management? So a lot of surveys indicate that there is a significant increase in Gen AI adoption among project management professionals, albeit a lot of them are still experimenting, right? I can't say that generative AI is there yet where everybody is using it for production level mission critical work. Not quite there yet. I think some are, but most are still experimenting. But the experimenting is going in a very positive direction. Those who are experimenting are all blown away, saying, wow, this can do some amazing things for us. And every day there are new use cases being discovered, and ultimately it is helping streamline operations, enhance productivity, and bring in that structure to project management, which possibly was missing without the one key element called generative AI. So there are algorithms that can take your project data and give you predictions. It can give you risks. It can give you analytics that can be helpful in decision making. And ultimately, several businesses have started successfully integrating this into their project management frameworks, right? So this is leading to improved project timelines, resource allocation, albeit with lesser critical projects. Maybe not all of them are there yet where they're willing to try this on very critical projects, but they're starting, right? Baby steps, baby steps. So these are some of the advancements we are seeing with the generative AI in the space of project management. So what are the more practical on the ground? All this, what we talked about, is kind of setting the context, but I'm sure all of you want to get a little closer to the ground reality. What can it help us with? These are some of the most talked about aspects of project management processes being enhanced by generative AI. So resource allocation. This is something that project managers, whether you're working in the more traditional project management model, or whether you're using the more agile project management model, what have you, resource allocation is something that's always a very critical aspect of it, and a challenging one as well, right? How to analyze your team capacity. What goals are you trying to achieve? Are you working in short iterations like sprints? Are you working in longer milestones in the traditional way of working? How do we optimally distribute our resources? What if today we have five people on the team, and a month from now we'll have 5 more people on the team? How to use that into our planning mixture? So there's a lot that can be done in resource allocation to optimize outcomes, and generative AI can be a very key part of it. Similarly, in assessing and mitigating risk, right? There's risk in everything that we do, and projects always carry risk. And as project managers, that is something we are constantly keeping our eye on, but also sometimes struggling to identify it on time and mitigate it. Again, something generative AI can help with. Decision making on a daily basis, regardless of what role we play, but especially if we are project managers, we are constantly bombarded with information that pushes us to take decisions, right? Should I prioritize this particular feature or deliverable? Should I bring in this external consultant to help with this project? Should I send my team for training now or later? Should I ask for more money now or later? Should I call out the milestones every month, or do I feel it should be every 3 months? What is the ultimate value that my customers are looking for, and how do I make sure we meet that? So decisions, right? And generative AI is something that can absolutely help in that as well. So let's come briefly explore each of these with one slide. Don't worry, I don't have a whole lot of slides today, so it's not death by slides. But a quick discussion around some of these might be warranted. So if you talk about resource allocation, right? So what are some of the things that generative AI can do today for us in resource allocation? There are AI-driven scheduling tools that automate scheduling tasks, right? In terms of looking at all the team members, their calendars, their workloads, project deadlines, and then come out with, hey, maybe you can do this, you can do that, you can focus on this. This is when you should all have a meeting. This is how long the meeting should be. Try to get all these decisions done in the meeting. So scheduling can be optimized to an extent that human beings might find it very hard or will need a lot of time to bring it to that level of optimization and accuracy. Talent management, bringing in the right talent at the right time is very critical for long and complex projects, right? So AI can help with talent management systems in matching project responsibilities with team strengths. If you have a large organization, access to a great talent pool, and you are like, you have a current team with this strength for this project, but you also need to start projecting what other kind of talent you'll need as the project progresses, as different modules start getting integrated. And the ability to say, there's in this team there's this talent, maybe you can ask them to free up their time for the month of October, and so on, right? So talent management systems that can automate it such that all the pieces fit in neatly. Utilization is another big one. Everyone talks about productivity and utilization. So utilization, predicting, forecasting, managing, all that can be very smoothly done and very efficiently done using the right generative AI tool at the right time, providing it the right context and data. Now, all of you may have heard of it that in generative AI, one of the key skills to develop is something called prompt engineering. Although it sounds like a big fancy word, first off, it's not engineering, and it is certainly not limited to engineers. Okay, anybody can learn prompt engineering, and everybody should as well. So what is prompt engineering? It's a conversational tool, right? We have a conversation with these generative AI tools. So how do we interact with these tools? How do we set the context, give it information, ask questions of it? It's through these interaction mechanisms called prompts. Essentially, they are just English language questions. But the richer the prompt is, the richer your output is, right? If I say, hey, can you give me a forecast for next year's sales data? I'll get one kind of output. If I say, based on the last 6 months actual sales, and the fact that seasonally December we see higher sales, but January we see lower sales, and that we are releasing a new product this year which has these characteristics targeted for this demography, can you give me a sales forecast? Such a rich prompt, right? We gave it a lot of context. So prompt engineering is something that is a good skill to have. And using these prompts, these are some of the things we can achieve used at the right time, with the right data provided, and with the right quality or richness of prompts. So the second thing we talked about here, going back a couple of slides after resource allocation, was risk assessment, right? So what can generative AI do for us in risk assessment? So one is scenario planning, right? What can happen? What are the various outcomes based on different project parameters? If we get delayed because of this resource joining us late, what is the outcome? If this particular release has to go out in November, what are some of the things that might go into the release? Can we actually add any value to our customers? So scenario planning, mitigation strategies, having identified some risk, how do we mitigate it? What kind of risks are we talking about, right? So these are some of the things that it can help us in. And in this context, I would like to switch over to my ChatGPT and show you a brief demo of what it's capable of. This is going to be a very rudimentary one. So if those of you who are using generative AI in very sophisticated ways already might go like, okay, this is a very rudimentary one. But those of you who are new to it, this might get your the wheels in motion in your brain, and wow, this is something that I can use, right? So that's my hope here. Give me one quick second, folks, while I go get my ChatGPT screen, and let me show you what I'm talking about here, okay? Okay, here we go. Let me share my screen again. Okay. Hithika, can you please confirm my screen is visible again? Just so that I check once.
It's visible now.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay, folks. So here is my ChatGPT screen, right? Accessing it online. I'm using ChatGPT 4.0. And here's what I'm going to do. First, I'm going to attach a file. And just in case you're curious, this is a paid subscription of ChatGPT. With a free one, there may be some limitations. But in case you're curious whether I'm using the free one or a paid version, this is actually the one where I pay for it on a monthly basis. So let me click on attach file and upload from computer. Okay. So here is a project plan that I have created just using a simple template. and that has some simple parameters. So let me open that up. So now I need to upload this to ChatGPT. So ChatGPT will now take the document I gave it and try to create an overview of it, saying, hey, this is what I got from you, right? So let's see what it says. So it's telling me that the project contains the following sheets: project plan template, blank project template, and disclaimer. Which one do you want to work with, right? So let me say I want to work with the first one. Let's see what it responds, right? Okay, the project plan template sheet contains project related details and so on, right? And it's telling me, would you like to clean up this data or focus on specific sections or analysis? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to say, I'm the project manager for this project. Can you help me identify the key risks for this project based on the plan I have uploaded? Again, this is very rudimentary. In the real world, we would be giving it much more data and our prompt would be much richer as well. But I just want to give those of you who are new to this a quick taste of how powerful this is, right? So let me put up this prompt and let's see what it says. So it's coming back with this, right? This is what I will do, it's saying. Now it's actually doing it, right? So it's starting off saying that the following sections may be relevant to identifying key risks. So what are some of the risks you could face? Timeline risks, delays in research or stakeholder alignment, budget risks, and so on, right? So from the project plan structure, the following sections may be relevant. When I tried this a little earlier, it gave me a slightly different response. Let me show you that as well. Okay, when I tried this a little earlier, it gave me a little different response. That's how these tools work, right? You will never get the same response for the same question depending on what time of the day. But let me show you what the answer I got the last time I tried this. So it gave something more specific. You can see here, I asked the same question. I'm the project manager for this project. Can you help me identify the key risk for this project based on the plan I've uploaded? That's about it. Same thing. And look at what it gave me, right? The project duration is set at 85 days. Given this time frame, your potential risks could include tight deadlines, holiday or vacation. You could have resource and staffing risk. Is there a sufficient buffer? Scope creep, if the scope of the app development isn't well defined, and so on, right? Now, if the plan itself was very boilerplate, but if the plan itself was much more better filled out, the same prompt with the same interaction would have given me much richer data. So I continue. Can you help me quantify these risks? So it creates this risk assessment matrix for me, where it gives me a formula of assign probability P, assign impact I, and calculate risk score R, where R is a product of probability and impact. So you can see here the tight deadlines risk, it says has a risk score of 16, staffing issues probably 15, scope creep 12, and so on, right? So quite a bit of interesting thing it does. If we were to do this in the real world with our own hands and in a human group, it would probably take us maybe half a day, sometimes longer, right? This response came up in less than a minute. So I thought this real quick live demo around risk mitigation and or at least risk assessment would give you some thought on, hey, how would I start using these tools if you are not already doing so? Okay, so let me get back to my slides. I'll continue in the interest of time. I have just a couple more things to cover. So AI in decision making. Let's come to that part, right? In decision making, it can provide real-time insights or near real-time insights, if that's what you're looking for, by analyzing ongoing project performance, team communications, and so on. As a project manager, we are faced with tough decisions like scope adjustments or deadline changes, which lever to pull on, right? What are the three levers we have? Say the scope, resources, or time. Those are the only levers we typically have. Which one is better to pull? And to do that, we can even run some simulations like, what if I added 3 more resources just for 2 weeks in October? What will that do to my plan? What if I brought in a specialized consultant for just this one skill, because my team's skill level is less than 5 on a scale of 1 to 10, but this person coming in will have a 9 out of 10. How will that affect my project plan? So all these what if scenarios and simulations can be done using generative AI. I greatly encourage you folks to try this out. When doing so, just be cautious about one thing. A quick disclaimer I want to call out. When using online tools like ChatGPT, and you upload a file, right, like I just did, what you're doing is you're giving data to the public domain. Not that the OpenAI folks will take all the data and start sharing it with people. That's not the worry. But all said and done, if the data you're providing, project plan data, other resource data, is confidential, you may want to be careful about which ones you want to upload. Perhaps you want to mask it. Perhaps you want to bring about some confidentiality before you use it. Or there is an option in ChatGPT saying, don't remember my conversations. That takes away some of the power of ChatGPT, but the good news there is it won't save your data. Otherwise, by default, all these models use your data to learn more. Remember, these are all learning. They're all training themselves based on data that we upload. So just keep that in mind. If you're going to run out and try this, be cautious about using your actual organizational data. As long as your security teams have okayed it, it should be okay. But otherwise, you may want to be a little more cautious about it. Okay. So let's continue then. So what are some of the other tools, ChatGPT being one of them, but are there other tools that can help in enhancing our project management experience? There are many out there and many coming up as well. But here are a few that are very popular. If you talk to project managers today, and many of you might be among this, who use AI-based tools, Trello, Asana, Monday, predictive analytics platforms like Julius.ai and ChatGPT, and many of these come to mind, right? So these are some of the ones that are more popular among project managers today. If you've not already done so, I encourage you to explore all these tools and see which might be something very valuable to you, right? Maybe you're already using one, but there's another one that might be valuable to you. So please do take a look at some of these, and you'll ultimately get a sense of which tool does better at what are the pros and cons of these tools, and so on. I can't claim that I've used all these tools. I've used ChatGPT extensively. I've tried out Trello a couple of times. I have never used Monday or which is the other one called out here. I've never used Monday, but I've certainly used other predictive analytics platforms like Julius and more like mostly.ai and so on. So you're welcome to try them out and decide on your own which ones work best for you. So for those of you who are very steeped in Agile, and I myself am an Agile coach, practitioner, and certified in Agile too. So I do believe Agile is something that's taken over the world in terms of how we run projects. So how about that Agile flavor, right? If those of you are wondering, we have not really talked about an Agile way of working, which is we're getting very popular in today's world. So these are some of the top considerations. When you think about generative AI and Agile, these are some of the top things that come to my mind. Enhanced decision making. Often the best friend of a product owner in Agile, I'm sure all of you will agree, is prioritization, 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 right? You should be able to prioritize your epics, your work items in your backlog. And again, generative AI can be very helpful in that. If there are some repetitive tasks like your status updates that you need to do, or a sprint planning that you need to get started on, a sprint retrospective, generative AI can step in and do some of those things for you. If you need a coach for your team and you don't actually have a human coach, but you want to see if a generative AI coach will work, absolutely possible. Give it, the more data you give it, the more information you give it, the more it can coach you and your team on how to become a truly agile team, right? In terms of collaboration, team dynamics, productivity, value of delivery, and so on. It can also accelerate your user story generation and refinement. In Agile, sometimes I myself have had this problem where we are looking at a user story that's very valuable, but we are not able to break it down into vertical slices. How do we break it down into vertical slices and make sure that we are able to deliver some value in every sprint, because it's too big to deliver in one sprint. Starting with things like that, generative AI can be very useful. Improved continuous feedback loops, right? You can continually have feedback from your users and stakeholders. And some of those things are among the top considerations when you think about generative AI and Agile, okay? So let's take another quick demo. I'll go back to my ChatGPT screen and share that with you. Give me 1 second while I bring it up. Okay, here we go. Let me share my screen. Okay. So I brought up ChatGPT again, and here is something that I tried, right? So I started off the prompt saying, hey, I'm going to give you a sample user story for a project we are working on. It is too big to accommodate in our sprint, and we need to slice it vertically such that every new user story created will have a specific value add to the user or the customer. Because I'm sure all of you will agree, especially agilists among you, that horizontal slicing of user stories is a big no-no, right? We can't say that we'll design the UI in this, we'll do the database work in that, and no, it should be vertical where there is some functionality being delivered to your users. So ChatGPT responded that it can certainly help me with that. And then I provided the user story as a customer on your travel portal. Again, a very rudimentary one. I would like to be able to look up flights based on origin, destination, time, and date of travel, etc. Right? So this is my user story. And I'm asking it to slice it vertically. To slice this user story vertically so that each smaller story adds specific value to the customer, we'll focus on delivering valuable increments to the user at each stage, exactly what we wanted to think along the lines of, right? So first, maybe you can think of search flights by origin and destination. So it actually gives us the user story. As a customer, I want to search for flights by selecting an origin and destination so that I can see available flight options between two locations. Next, it says by date and time. Next, it says view flight details. Next, filter flights by airlines or prices, sort your search results, save recent searches, and so on, right? So it gives me 6 possible user stories sliced from one big one, which I'm not able to accommodate in a particular sprint. Then I say, okay, can you also help create acceptance criteria for these stories, right? You can see my prompt here, and it responds saying, okay, here is something you can consider. And for each of those 6 user stories, it comes back with some interesting acceptance criteria. Again, I want to call out that I am not advocating that we blindly trust the output of generative AI tools, including ChatGPT. I'm only demonstrating to you the power of these tools, but I would also add the caution that these are still very, very much in the evolving phase. So whatever outcomes and outputs it gives us, we must have some kind of a check and balance in place, right? Because if you blindly trust it, sometimes it can mislead us. It's still learning, it's still evolving. Therefore, while these can certainly be great tools to use, we should also be cautious on using some kind of a quality system or a review system on the outcomes or the having some kind of a check and balance in place, right? So having said that, let's take a look. Acceptance criteria, right? System users can enter, select an origin, system returns a list of available flights. If no flights are available, no flight message is displayed, and so on. So it's thinking through for each of these sliced use cases or user stories, what are the different possibilities, right? And it's giving you all that in the form of acceptance criteria. Very cool. Where was all this when I was struggling with many agile projects a decade back when agile was very new, right? But anyway, just some attempt at humor here, but I think it's still very cool. And I hope again that sparks some imagination in you folks on how you would take this back and use it or add to what you're already doing. Okay. Okay. What I would like to do now is I would like to share a short video with you. This is from Atlassian, the makers of Jira, a very popular tracking and project management tool for Agile. So let's take a look at what are some of the intelligence features, kind of like AI, generative AI features, already baked into this tool called Jira, right? So let's take a look. Again, this will be available, I think, only with certain plans of Jira. So if you have Jira and you run out there and say, hey, I don't see this feature, it's possible that you don't have that particular plan for Jira. Okay, so let's take a look. Let me share my, I'll stop my video and I'll play this video. Again, I'll look to my colleagues, Christabel and Hithika, to confirm as I play this video that audio video is clear.
All right, one last feature with premium.
Audio video okay?
Yeah, all clear.
Thank you.
All right, one last feature with Premium that I want to highlight is Atlassian Intelligence. So Atlassian Intelligence provides your team with a new virtual teammate that deeply understands how you collaborate to accelerate work. Leveraging AI through internal models and our collaboration with OpenAI, Atlassian Intelligence is built into the Atlassian platform, the common technology foundation across all of our cloud products. Atlassian Intelligence is available, like I said, with Premium, but also with enterprise cloud plans as well. So let's take a look at some examples in which we can use AI in Jira. So one is the generative AI in the issue editor, which will help teammates craft better responses, adjust their tone to be more professional or empathetic, and then it could also summarize a lengthy thread and much more. So here we're telling a teammate that we need something from them, but perhaps we want to change this a little bit. Notice how we're using acronyms here. So maybe we want to kind of improve the writing. So maybe that's a little bit more clear. So here we expand on that acronym. Perhaps you want to change the tone, make it more professional. Perhaps you know this team member and you want to make it a little bit more casual instead. You can do all of that with AI straight in the generator. Another use of AI is going to be using the issue search. Here, you can use Atlassian Intelligence to translate what you type into a Jira query language code, which quickly searches for the issues that you're looking for. So you can tell AI to search for issues in a simple language instead of coming up with complex JQL queries. So here, it is already going to pull the project. It is looking at the status category and making sure that the status category is in progress. And instead of you going through the filters yourself, or like I said, using JQL, you can just type it and tell it what to do. You can also edit it and it will refresh and then update anything that's necessary, like the project here. You can also use Atlassian Intelligence to generate automation rules, kind of similar to what we just saw here. If you don't want to come up with your own automation rules, you can use AI to come up with it for you. Here, we'll generate an automation rule with AI, and you simply just need to describe the rule you want to create. So here, at the end of the quarter, I want all open issues to be closed. And then here you have it, an automation rule where you did not have to create it yourself. It is going to say when this happens for specific issues, then transition issue to done. Just review the rules, make sure everything looks good, and let the robots do the work.
Okay, so I hope that video was interesting in at least beginning to give you a sample of what some of the intelligence features baked into many of these tools are. For example, I love that one where you can search for issues, right? That's always a big pain when you have many projects and you're working on Jira. Trying to find issues that have some connection among them is always very difficult. And trying to create a Jira query is something that is not always straightforward. I'm very happy to see that just like on generative AI prompt, you can actually say, hey, show me all the issues related to this, blah, 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 and boom, you get the results as you saw in the demo. Many other interesting things, I'm sure, but this was a short video that is publicly available on YouTube if any of you are interested in going back and taking a look at it, okay? But in the meanwhile, let me continue. Okay. So as we wind down, a couple more thoughts I wanted to share with you. As we are looking to integrate some of these AI tools into our existing portfolio of tools that we use, perhaps you're using Jira, Microsoft Project, or a ClickUp, or whatever you're using, what are some of the things we need to consider, right? One is make sure that you are very clear on what you want from these generative AI tools, right? I think sometimes hype will lead to adopting a tool and then hoping to find some value in it. Be careful not to fall into the trap. Make sure your stakeholders all agree and understand that this makes sense to them. And follow a phased approach with a POC, a proof of concept, a prototype, and make sure that all this works very well with your existing investment. For example, let's say you invest in a tool XYZ and find out that it doesn't work as well with Jira as you thought it will. Now you have invested in two things that don't work well together, which would make your life a little hard, right? So these are some of the things to think about. Again, some very early considerations. Each one of these can itself be a couple of hours of discussion easily, but I thought I'll just share some early thoughts with you. So what are some of the future trends? I think we're going to see increased automation. Automation is going to be a big part, and automation with AI, combined with AI, platforms like Zapier, combined with the Chat GPT and your Microsoft project or Jira will be incredibly powerful. Still evolving, not quite there yet, but I see that as a big part of what's coming. Generative AI will also facilitate creative problem solving, right? Where we'll probably be able to think in ways for certain situations, for certain decisions, in ways that we were not able to think as humans before, or did not have the ability to crunch the numbers, so to speak, and look at the decisions. I think the possibilities will become much bigger, and ultimately collaboration tools will will evolve into something much bigger. So if you're using things like um, Microsoft Teams or a Mural or a Miro or any of those, I think those tools are going to become like, the heart of what we do, connecting to everything else that we do, because ultimately we are all human beings. We need to collaborate to get work done. And we live in a very distributed hybrid working model today, where people are distributed across geographies. Not everyone comes to the office every day. And in such a world, collaboration tools will become the heart of everything, and everything will start and end there with various intelligences added to do other things. So these are some of the trends that I foresee in the near future for project management and generative AI. So as project managers, what are some of the things that should be on top of our mind? We must cultivate a skill that includes data literacy, familiarity with AI tools, whether your organization uses Copilot, whether you're allowed to use ChatGPT, whether there's some new tool coming in, and these new tools will keep coming in, right? Or whether the intelligence capabilities of existing tools like Jira. And how can you bring in change management? As you adopt these tools, the way we work, some of our processes, some of our thought processes also need to change. How will we make that change work and stick? Because there'll always be resistance from different quarters saying, oh no, the old way of working was just fine. And change management will become a big part of our project manager's role, ultimately helping the organization shift in its culture, because the culture is all about what tools we use, what processes we use, how do we use them, how do we interact with people, and ultimately how do we behave with these tools in hand. And that shift is something that I think we'll also have a lever in our hand to influence, right? So that's pretty much what I had for you folks today.